like that. Actually, it'd be like something like $2 a pack. It's the last number I ever remember. It must be 30 years ago. Yeah, okay. This is the quantity of cigarettes. This is competitive equilibrium. QC, QO. Okay? In the market for cigarettes in Canada, competitive equilibrium gives that price and that quantity. According to our theory, that's the optimal allocation of resources because the social marginal cost equals the social demand. Everybody? The social is very important. You know all that. Okay, good. So, the principle of externalities, as I say, this is Pagoo, and he pointed out this. This is absolutely correct for the real world. In the real world, back up. Atomism. Does anybody know what that is? We talked about that. Yeah, go ahead.
The whole is equal to the sum of the parts?
The whole is equal to the sum of the parts. Do you people believe that? Do you think the whole is equal to the sum of the parts? Trudeau, by the way, said that Canada was not. The whole of Canada is more than the sum of the parts. Do you believe that? No, really, this is something for you to think about. Is the whole the sum of the parts? Is the world simply composed of atoms, and if you just stick all the atoms together, that's the whole? Is that what it is? Because this is you people are atoms. And if you, like Aristotle would say, no, because when I look at this atom here he is, but I don't see how he's connected to these people. If you just add up the atoms, you don't see certain connections, right? And an example I love is ants. Here's an ant. It's an experiment we should try. Get an ant, pick an ant up somewhere, bunch of ants. Put them here. Here's the one ant. Boom. That ant will just move totally erratically. It has no sense, right? It doesn't know what to do. Here's another ant. You can get like maybe 9 ants, and they actually will not. They'll all behave completely erratically. Then like 10th ant, whatever it is, suddenly they click. They become what we call a superorganism. Suddenly they all start doing their thing. They divide up. They're just like division of labor. It's like Adam's Smith's pin factory. This ant now goes off in that direction. This ant starts doing this in the calling ball. Literally, the whole is more than the sum of the parts. We know that everything. You can name anything, and I'll prove to you that the whole is more than the sum of the parts, just as a matter of fact. You just can't do it, right? But in economics, we have the position that the whole is the sum of the parts. Give me an example of that using demand. Why can I say that demand, market demand, is an example in economics of the belief that the whole is the sum of the parts? I asked you this on the exam. How did you guys get a market demand function anyway? How do we get it? How do you get a market demand function? Did you think if you wrote that exam 2 weeks ago you got to forget everything? How do you get a market demand function? How would you do it? How did you do the exam? Wait a minute, let's see. I wonder if I got it here. Let me see here. No, you might not have that in here. You should know it anyway, though. Okay, I'm waiting. I'm going to wait until one of you tells me. How do you get a market demand function? Thank you, owner. This is a previous student of mine. I harped at stuff. Sorry to admit it because of the green pants. But no matter. He actually is. You guys, shame yourself. Please, tell them how to get a market demand function.
Is it because like at each different price there's different quantities are demanded, and when you actually add them up, it's more than that at particular price?
Kind of, but I'm saying, how did we get it? How did we get a market demand function off? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Erica.
Well, we know how much is demanded at each quantity, and at each price, and that's.
Oh, yeah, no, we did that. We could do it as a linear function for the whole society, but theoretically, how do we get the whole demand function? You add all the individual. You add all the individual demand functions. Everybody, it's the sum of the individual demand functions. And the cost to society is the sum of the firm marginal cost functions. Okay, here's the news. The externality is this. An externality is a cost or benefit that is not paid for by a consumer or a producer in the marketplace. So cigarettes have costs that are not the costs of growing tobacco, curing tobacco, rolling tobacco, and marketing tobacco. Can you tell me a cost of a cigarette to the society that is not paid for by the cigarette company? Can you think of a cost? Yes.
Secondhand smoke.
Huh?
Secondhand smoke.
Secondhand smoke, yes indeed, but what else? Even more directly, first-hand smoke, health costs, right? With a cigarette, this is 30 years ago, and it's still true today, but basically, the manufacturers are not responsible for, under certain conditions, and our question is how we can make them so. In the marketplace, they're not responsible for costs of health costs of cigarettes. They sell you a cigarette. By the way, everybody in this room, as you people go through your life, your tax dollars in Canada are paying for people who smoke cigarettes. That's just, we have to take care of them, right? Somewhere or another. Who do you think pays for this? They don't necessarily. They might, but not necessarily. We pay for that. Any cancer, any sickness, any lost time at work, that we pay for, not the cigarette companies. What's an externality of a car? Name an externality of a car. Pollution. Pollution that discolors buildings. Pollution that causes acid rain. Pollution that is noise pollution. Fatalities on the highway. Again, do you think the car manufacturers are responsible? Who pays for that stuff? Who pays for that ambulance? So the point is this. It turns out the actual cost to society for cigarettes, cars, paper because they pollute the stream, blah, 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 is the cost not paid for by the companies, but paid for by the society. In the case of cigarettes, it would be health costs. All right? So, what we need to do then is, we need to, now it turns out, let's say PO is $2 a pack. And I'm going to say, and this is probably not far wrong, by the way, that we have this distance here. Notice how this fits in like kind of to taxing or something? I'll just do this. This is the externality per unit. Which say is equal to, it could be as much as $8 a pack, right? I'll just say it's that, it doesn't really matter. And this means that the actual marginal cost to society is not that marginal cost there, but this, which is supply, which is equal to marginal cost plus the externality. So since we want socially, the social optimal equilibrium, it turns out it is here, not here. Competitive market without those costs included in the cigarette price would give us the wrong equilibrium. We'd sell too many cigarettes at a lower price. This is the price where the marginal cost, the price of the last sold cigarette pack is equal to the marginal cost. People who buy cigarettes, this is P star. In this case, people who buy cigarettes pay the price of their pollution costs, not about the rest of us. Okay, this is competitive equilibrium. This is zero allocation. Zero efficiency loss, optimal allocation. What is the efficiency loss at this output? It is one of two triangles. It is either this triangle or it is this triangle. Which one is it? The upper or the lower? What is the efficiency loss to society at competitive equilibrium? Okay, the trick is, or the key thing is, the point of the triangle always is at zero efficiency loss. If you pick this triangle, you'd be saying at competition there was zero efficiency loss, and that's wrong. This is zero efficiency loss. At competition, people are paying this price, and across society this price, there's the efficiency loss. All right? We can measure that. Now then, just quickly, we're going to take a break. How would we force the marketplace to incorporate the externality into the price? How can we force firms to charge a price that incorporates that externality? There's at least two ways. One is pretty obvious. If you think about cigarettes today, what way is that? Tax, right? Tax per unit. So you can tax cigarettes. And in fact, if we tax cigarettes the amount of the externality, then the equilibrium in the marketplace would be the optimal allocation and all would be good. Of course, you wouldn't necessarily want the government interfering that way. So a lot of economics says government shouldn't interfere, but in this case, they should. Another way would be what? I was saying to the other class, here are your clues. Exxon Valdez, the class stared at me blankly. 3 people knew what it was. Here's another clue, unsafe at any speed. They really were confused by that. Does anybody know the reference to the Exxon Valdez? Yikes. And as I said to the class, what good are you guys? You listen to Rob, you don't know Trudeau, you probably vote for Rob Ford, Lord help us. If there's any good to you people, it's because you're environmentally conscious. Or something like that. You have morality that the older people don't. But apparently you don't. How could you be environmentally conscious and not know the Exxon Valdez? What is it? What was it, by the way? Yeah, tell them.
An oil tanker that sank off the coast of Alaska.
Yeah, it sank off the coast of Alaska in like 1974 or something. Can't remember exactly when. It could have been later. Spilling 100,000 barrels of crude in cold waters on the Alaskan coast. And they basically just would say, oh geez, sorry. And then started a fight back up. Sorry is not good enough. So how do people respond to that sorry? What do? You just spilled oil on my coast. What are we going to do? How are we going to get you back? How would you do that? If somebody came and spilled oil in your yard, how would you get back at them?
Sue them.
Sue them, right? So ever since, sue them. Like, for example, Unsafe at Any Speed was a book by Ralph Nader, 1964 or something, which showed that the car, the Corvair by Chevrolet, was, if it was hit in the rear, it oftentimes burst into flame and fried whoever was inside. It was a design flaw. So that pointed that out, and ever since, now, why do you think when there's car companies recall cars? Because they're nice people? Hardly. They're afraid of being sued. So the idea is you can sue them or you can tax. These are 2 different ways of incorporating externalities. Any questions on this? Good. 10-minute break. Think about it. You're supposed to